Why, hello again, tax students. This is your teacher Roy with another video, this time showing you how to prepare a tax return with the 2013 TaxACT software. And what we're going to do is take a look at this demonstration problem here on page 1-14 in our textbook. That's Ed and Betty Davidson's information. And if you go down the page, here you can see Ed's W-2 form from his job and their 1099 INT form for interest income from their account with First Savings Bank. Now, if you've already installed the software on your computer, sitting on your desktop should be an icon like this to start or launch the program. And if you haven't installed the software, there's a prior video where I show you how to install it with the procedures, with the steps for Windows type, PC type computers. Okay, so let me double click on this icon, and the first thing you'll see is a splash screen with the TaxACT logo. And then you may see some other dialog boxes, including this one asking you to update the software. I would recommend you checking it off and clicking on this Install Now button. But what I'll do is prepare the return without installing the update, just to show you the kind of error messages you should see if you have not done the installation, the update installation. Okay, so I'll click on this Install Later. And you may see some other dialog boxes for new taxpayers. Here I have an existing taxpayer called John Smith. Now that's what we got to do, add on new clients before we can prepare their return, either by clicking on this file command and then adding new client, or we can do that by using these buttons here. Here, this one with the plus and the guy in the background. Let me click on that. Here it's asking us if we want to start from scratch, adding a new client, or if we want to continue working with an existing client, we can import that information from last year's tax return, the 2012 TaxACT file. And that will copy things like names and addresses that don't really change from year to year, and all we have to do is confirm that the old information is still current, and then enter the new updated amounts. But in our case, we're doing everything from scratch. The Davidsons are a new client, so we'll click Add New, then OK. And it may or may not ask you if you want to bill the client by invoice or forms, or create an engagement letter. And you can bypass all of that. All we want to do right now is enter their name and contact information. So here in the first name box, I can click Ed, and the fast way to move from field to field is not to use your mouse and click, but to use the Tab key to move from the one field to the next, or to Shift Tab to move backwards. Here, last name is Davidson, and Social Security number, let me grab it from, I'll grab it right, I guess, from Ed's W-2 form. And of course, you cannot do this if you don't have a digitized copy. I'm selecting, giving the copy command, and then pasting. Birth date, we're really not given that, but I'm just going to make up a date here. How about 1980? Occupation, again, we're given his W-2, but not really his occupation. I'll just say manager. Now I need to fill in Betty's information, Davidson, and Social Security number. That was given to us at the beginning of the problem here. Let me just select. See that footnote 14? It just says that all of these are just dummy Social Security numbers. And even some dummy numbers may not be legitimate in terms of processable. So you may get a warning in TaxACT the number may not be legitimate, but that doesn't affect our projects or homework problems. Okay, so let's continue here with Betty's birth date. Let me use the same one here, 1980. Occupation, she doesn't work outside, so I'll just say housewife, or yeah, how about housewife? And then address, let me see if I can grab it here. Anywhere, North Carolina 27890. Okay, let's see, anywhere in North, a lot of N states. North Carolina 27890. Was that right? Yeah. Okay, not a foreign country, so I'll leave the next line blank. I'm not going to enter any phone number or email, although professionals would do that so they can contact easily the taxpayers. And here is my preparer name that I had set up when I first installed the software. We're not going to charge them anything here, at least in our class. And I'll click OK. And here what you see is the 1040 form. And off to the left side are folders with files, with forms and schedules and worksheets. And whatever's selected, right now this is selected, will show up here on the right side. And you can, I guess, widen this left-hand column to show more of the titles of those folders and files. And you can even close that file to widen up the form. And if you want to bring back that form list, you can click on this Forms button up here. Now, most tax software allow you to enter amounts directly into the forms. But if you want some help in terms of what forms should be used, you can probably use this Q&A mode, like an interview process, where you would read the information here and click on Continue. And you can kind of see a small portion of the form down here that's filled in when you answer the questions up here. Here's a warning saying I should turn on this autosave. So let me go ahead and do that. And it'll save it into this folder for TaxACT. I can see a previous one I saved here. So you'll see the name of the taxpayer down here. But what I want you to do is eventually when you turn in your work is to make the file name begin with your last name, like mine would be Kamida, then the taxpayer's last name, and probably whatever information's already there, like the file name. You can keep it so. Okay, so when you turn it in, I can tell it's from you, and I can tell which problem or taxpayer you're working on. I'm going to head and click on the Save button. So it'll continually save automatically, periodically. So again, when you fill in these blanks here, automatically it'll link or fill in the form down here. So what you got to do is go through these tabs of information, these different topics up here, and automatically it'll try to fill in and pull out the forms that you need. But eventually you'll end up here back in that forms listing and the form screen. Okay, so our textbook says most professionals go straight to the form pretty much because they know where to fill it in and they don't have to go through unnecessary questions. Either way, for you beginners is okay. This interview process, Q&A, but eventually again you'll probably end up on this screen, this form screen here. So you can see the information already filled in here when we set up the client. And here they're going to file a joint return, one of the two filing statuses we learned in Chapter 1. Let's see what else. So we got their two personal exemptions. That's going to determine the amount of deductions they get to claim, personal deductions, personal exemptions. If you had a dependent, what you can do is click on this box, and instead of filling in the information here, notice this yellow folder. What you can do is link that line to this new form here called dependents and fill out all this information for one dependent, and automatically it'll fill in the line for you here on the 1040 form. In our case, the Davidsons don't have a dependent. They just have themselves two personal exemptions. But let's go ahead and fill in the first dollar amount, which is Ed's wages. So when I click in that line 7, notice again the yellow form, yellow folder. So that means I can link to this line. Here, clicking on that folder brings out all the different forms that could feed into line 7. And the most common ones are listed here at the top, which would be a W-2. So I'm going to add a W-2 to their return and click on this open form. And what you're looking at is a W-2 for Ed. I could check off Betty if it was Betty's W-2. So what I do now is match up his paper, or really here his PDF file of a W-2 form, with the screen here. Okay, so box 1, let me grab that dollar amount here. $53,766 is his wages. That also shows up here in box 3 and box 5. Now what I do need to type in differently is the dollar amount of the taxes. So definitely we want to pick up this taxes you already paid for federal income taxes here in box 2. As for the Social Security taxes and Medicare taxes, it may not be critical in their case, but if Ed has multiple jobs or if he has a side business, these amounts may be critical in determining how much more Social Security taxes he has to pay. And then looks like the only other thing I need to worry about here on this form is the state information. Looks like it's the same wages down here. Let me pick up this state income taxes. So what I have down here is the state of North. I keep on pressing the letter N until I see what I want. Carolina. We aren't given a state ID, but the wages are the same, $53,766, and the state income taxes I just copied and pasted here in this box 17. So if you were working on a state tax return, automatically these amounts would be filled in on that return, that North Carolina form. So now when I go back to the 1040 form, I can go back by clicking on this back button, or if I scroll back to the top of this listing and select that 1040 form again, just double click. Here in line 7 is Ed's wages, and if I can continue going down, I can see the totals, a standard deduction, 2 exemptions automatically calculated. Here's the taxable income that's looked up on the tax table because it's below $100,000, and it pulls out the tax here in line 44, minusing out that withholdings I had entered on the W-2 form, showing right now there is a refund of $205. If you look up here, you can see information about the federal and state. We're not going to do states yet with TaxACT, but I'm going to just keep in mind up here, looking at the federal refund would go down if I add more income, or go up if I have more deductions, or go down if I take away deductions. Yeah. So logically, when you make changes here in the form, you should see the refund or tax owing move in the right direction, the logical direction. Let's enter Ed's and Betty's interest income, and that would go in line 8 here. So I'm going to click on it. Again, it's linked to a folder, linked to another form. I click on the yellow folder, and it takes us to Schedule B, where here at the top you would enter interest income in Part 1, or down here, dividend income in Part 2. Whenever you have more than $1,500 of either interest or dividends, you also got to make sure you complete down here these questions, whether you have foreign interest, foreign bank accounts. But in our case, even though the amount is small, we still would enter the appropriate income in its right area. And again, the amounts would automatically feed into the 1040 form. So if I click in this blank line here or here, I get that yellow folder, which I'll link to. And here I'm going to have it open up a new 1099 INT form. I just can double click on this add copy here, and what you're looking at is a 1099 INT. I'm going to leave this information blank, but you should fill it in with the bank information. But the important thing, of course, is the dollar amount. here that's 372.33. It's hard to select it with my mouse here. Okay, copy and paste it here in line box 1. I think that's all I need to get from here. Again, you should be entering this information. I'm going to bypass it, this name of the institution. So now when I go back to the 1040 form, well, here back to the Schedule B, the name of the bank which should appear here if you filled in the 1099. Let me go back again, and here in box 8A of the 1040 form, it added in that interest income, subtotaled it correctly, recalculated the tax year, reducing my refund now down to $153. Again, you can confirm it up here, yeah? Okay, so let's say I'm done. Even though the example in the book prepares the return, let's take a look at the return in the book, the printout really of the 1040, not really 1040, but the 1040 EZ form. Here's that wages, interest, subtotal. The standard deduction exemptions are totaled up in this 20,000. And it's easy for the EZ because you only have two choices, either 10,000 or this 20,000. 20,000 in our case for joint return. And going all the way down to that same refund. So I'm pretty much I know I did it correctly, yeah? But I did it on the 1040, not the 1040 EZ. So it's up to you which one you want to do. You always can use the 1040 form and come out with the same amount of tax, same amount of refund. But for doing it manually, it may be easier using the shorter, easier version of the form. Now what you're going to do to turn in your work is not submit the TaxACT data file or this TaxACT software. I want you to turn in a PDF file, like a computerized paper file. So the way we do that is here under the File command, we can save return as PDF. So all we need here is this one federal copy here. To continue, let's see, and then all of these schedules, yeah, okay. And here is a warning message. It says, due to the early release of that software I installed, it may not have been updated. So if I continue going down to take a look at the 1040 form, do you notice the watermark, do not file? Some students just automatically submit the file without even looking at it. This is telling you there's errors here, or really the software wasn't updated. So let me go back and update the software. Here in the menu bar at the top of TaxACT, select the online command, and here the first one down, check for updates. I'm going to check off this update and install it now. Looks like it's loading, downloading fast and installing. Come on. And it's done. Now what I'm going to do again, this time here, is open up the Davidson return. I'll just double click on the name and create that PDF file one more time. You notice that warning page is gone and there's no watermark here. So let's see if I can find this file. Of course I could resave it anywhere, but I believe it's saved. Let me bring up my Explorer screen here. It's saved under Documents, TaxACT 2013. Okay, it's not here. Let's see if I can find it by going to File, Save As. It's in a PDF folder that's under client data, you see all the subfolders here from my drive C, so it's in this folder here. So I could just grab it or resave it somewhere else. And again, this is the file. This is the file right here that I'm going to be uploading as my assignment. And again, I want you to rename it, yeah? Your name, like Kamida, and the taxpayer name, Davidson. You can keep all this other stuff here. And then I can identify that it's coming from you for this return. Okay, so again, this is a video showing you, demonstrating to you how to prepare a sample return with the TaxACT 2013 version. If you have questions, email them to me, kamida@hawaii.edu.